All right. We are going to be talking about Drupal Starshot with Gábor. How many of you have heard about Starshot? I guess everyone who was in Suzanne's presentation heard about it. How many of you know what Drupal Starshot is? Almost half of the people, so that's pretty good. I hope that you have some takeaways from our presentation. We are going to share sort of the latest news. There's probably going to be some things that are going to be the same as what you've heard already before. But we are trying to share the sort of latest news and give some in-depth ideas on what we think Starshot will be. Yeah. So my name is Lauri Timmanee, formerly known as Lauri Eskola. I changed my last name recently because I got married. So that's where the new name is coming from.
And I am Gábor Hojtsy, and both of us work for Acquia.
And Gábor is the community coordinator for the Drupal Starshot, and I'm a product lead for the Experience Builder initiative. All right, so where is Drupal Starshot coming from? So you may have heard Dries talk about all of the improvements that we're trying to make Drupal easier to use in his keynotes. He's been talking about that for probably, I don't know, last 10 to 12 years, something like that. Even though that is the case, we are maybe still not quite there. Drupal can sometimes feel a little bit like rocket science for someone who has not used Drupal before. And that's something that we are planning to address, kind of as Suzanne talked in his keynote. We need more people within the platform of Drupal, and making Drupal more accessible and easier to use is one way of doing that. So we have some user research from around 5 years ago. This is still relevant to a large extent. And what this research that we did 5 years ago is showing is that Drupal experts really love Drupal. They are really satisfied with Drupal and its capabilities. And that's sort of the opposite of what the other platforms are having in terms of what their users are telling. Usually on their platforms, users get less satisfied the more experts they become with the platform. Now, I guess the question is then, what can we do in order to make these beginner users have this equally good experience or equally good perception about Drupal as what we have with these experienced users? How might we make Drupal the gold standard for the next generation of ambitious site builders and marketers? We have many of those required capabilities that these users expect. We just have to make it easier to use. So we've been doing a lot of thinking and sort of research on what is actually preventing us from getting there. What is preventing from beginner users loving Drupal? And it kind of starts from the experience of, getting to the platform where you first download Drupal, and then you kind of have to figure out all of the modules that you have to download in order to make your site functional. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with the idea that we have modules to extend Drupal. The idea is that the challenge is just that the sort of starting point that you begin with is a little bit behind when we compare it to other platforms. Many of the capabilities that exist in the contributed ecosystem are something that you get out of the box when you install something like WordPress or other CMSs. So maybe that's something where we would have to take the user a little bit further from where it is. The challenge is that even though it's not necessarily a big deal to download these modules, but if you don't know the platform, it actually takes some knowledge to know these are the modules that you need to download. Let's imagine something like the path auto. Like, you could imagine that someone who comes to Drupal and they just download Drupal and they start creating content. They think that you have to always fill in all of that information manually, even though everyone who knows Drupal is downloading this module for solving that problem. So it takes some knowledge and experience to get all of that set up. Dries has been talking a lot about ambitious site builders and how we can improve Drupal for that persona. I guess the challenge in practice for us has been that even though that's what we are targeting, still a lot of the day-to-day commits and sort of the work that is happening is targeted at developers, because a lot of the work that is being done is done by developers who are making improvements to their own lives within agencies. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong about improving Drupal for developers. That's actually great. It's just a question of how can we expand sort of the momentum and the amount of things that we improve so that we are also making improvements for the end users. And then finally, the challenge that we've realized is that Drupal core is kind of slow to change. And that's actually something that we've done by design since Drupal 8. We decided that since Drupal is a platform that a lot of sites and users depend on, it's probably better that Drupal core is slow to change. It's a decision that we've made. We could make Drupal core move much faster, but that's going to actually increase the pain that some folks in the community would have to face because they have to update their modules and sites in a more frequent pace. So that's a challenge because there's a clear trade-off between those two different situations.
So what do we do about this? So let's say that you have Drupal core that nobody's using Drupal core only is not something that people use to build sites. And then you have the real Drupal sites that have a whole bunch of contrib modules and you need to figure out how to build them. And what if there would be something in the middle that helps you get there sooner, that would use Drupal core, would get you sooner there to your live Drupal site. So that's what Drupal Starshot is. So it basically sits between Drupal core and the real live Drupal sites and solves and bottles up a lot of the solutions that you need to figure out on the way to real live Drupal site. So that's what Starshot is. It's not a fork of Drupal, it's not a new project, it's built on Drupal core. It's a product for the ambitious site builders, so it focuses on usability and features for the ambitious site builders. So I think many people realize that that's basically going back to Drupal's roots, where you could easily click together a content type, you could easily make a view out of it, you could easily put it on a page, you could easily expose it in a decoupled fashion. So to make all of these things easy for ambitious site builders to do, and so don't require them to code and don't require them to understand all of the internals to make that work. It also results in additional default features that are not in Drupal core. So we don't need to add all the things into Drupal core anymore because we now have a place to add those features for ambitious site builders. And it makes it easier to add more features because it's not tied to the Drupal core release cycle. It can have its own release cycle. It is built on country projects the same way that live Drupal sites are built on Drupal core plus a bunch of country projects. So we can use the contrib ecosystem, we can embrace all of the innovation that's happening in contrib already, and we can encourage more innovation happening in contrib without everything needing to go through core. And so core can stay the stable thing that it is and provide that value that we love, that it's stable and secure and strong, and we can do this more ambitious thing that helps you get to real Drupal sites on top of that foundation faster. So the Drupal Starshot vision is that site builders without Drupal experience can easily build and launch open source Drupal sites so that you don't need all of that experience to pick out the pieces that you would need to build a Drupal site, because we provide all of that experience bottled up for you in Starshot. That's the vision. And the way that we want to show this to the world, I think Suzanne showed this screenshot, is that we would offer the result of Starshot as the default download of Drupal, the default package of Drupal on Drupal.org. So the working name for the result of Starshot is Drupal CMS. It's not going to be a new brand. We don't want the new brand. Starshot is not going to be a brand for end users. It's a internal initiative name. So the Drupal CMS would be the new default download or that people would see, and we would still offer Drupal core that now can be the developer-focused solution. And Drupal CMS will be for ambitious site builders, and that's what people will do. We have a launch button there that will make it very easy to try Drupal Starshot out, and we can talk about a little bit about that more later.
So we've divided the work into sort of three main categories of work, and we've sort of taken a look at sort of the beginning from when you discover Drupal into what does it actually take to launch a site. And that divides into the three groups of where the first is installation. We want to improve the installation experience, so that includes making improvements to Drupal.org, to the way that you download Drupal, so that it's easy for someone who is not comfortable using the command line to actually set up a Drupal site. Then the second step is, what does it actually take from installing Drupal into actually building a site that you can launch? So that includes, importing your brand into Drupal and building the different pages that you need on the live website. And then the third category is actually launching your site, which is you install something, maybe locally or in a temporary environment, and then now at the launch stage, you want to take that into production. At first, we're focused on the first two stages of this, and then eventually we'll focus on the third step as well. Instead of waiting for years to build something like this, even though the plan is quite ambitious, we want to build momentum on this early on. And for this reason, Dries is invited in his keynote the community to make meaningful progress towards solving this problem by the end of this year. That means that we want to get an initial version of Drupal CMS or Drupal Starshot, whatever the name of the product that we built is going to be, out before the end of the year. That won't be the final version. It's not going to solve all of the problems in the world by the end of the year, because that would be quite ambitious, but it will solve some of those problems, and it will make meaningful progress towards the end goal. And ideally, the fact that we get to ship something fast and early helps us build momentum for later on to continue making even more innovative and capabilities and bigger improvements to Drupal. So what is Drupal Starshot? In summary, Drupal Starshot is a fast-moving open source product that enables site builders without Drupal experience to easily build and launch a new Drupal site and extend it with prepackaged recipes, all using their browser. So we're going to remove a lot of the steps that you are doing in command line today and making them available and convenient through the browser. It doesn't mean that you can't use the command line. You can still use the command line if that's the tool that that's the interface that you prefer to use. But we want to make those features available through the UI for the users that prefer that. Unlike Drupal core, it will guide site builders to install recipes for common best practices and state-of-the-art innovations. So that means that Drupal Starshot or Drupal CMS will be opinionated about the modules and sort of the features and capabilities that come with it. It might make an opinion that we are going to be using the experience builder, for example, or we're going to use the paragraphs module, or we're going to use this AI module for building the features within the Drupal Starshot. It still leaves room for other solutions to exist in the ecosystem, but it creates sort of one default product that users can put their hands on very easily within this one download package or this one install experience. Drupal CMS or Drupal Starshot will be easy to set up and easy to install. We will minimize the number of steps that users have to take. So that also refers to the being opinionated. We are willing to make strong statements that this is how we believe that you should be building your Drupal site. Drupal CMS will focus on getting people from install to launch really fast and bringing new people and contributors into Drupal and the open web. So what this means is that for Drupal CMS to be successful, we want to get a broader group of people contributing to Drupal, and we want to have a broader people using Drupal as well as end users.
All right. It's a lot of high-level speak, so how do we get there? Where's the code? So what's in Drupal Starshot? So we have Drupal core, and we build on Drupal core, and we get to Drupal Starshot, right? So the first thing that we have to realize this vision is automatic updates, which is a very misleading name, I think. It encompasses a lot of things that we need to use. We'll talk a little bit about that next. We need to have project browsers, so there's an easy way for you to find things to install and add to your site. And We'll have Experience Builder as one of these projects that may be in core, maybe in Contrib in the future, that will provide a integrated editing experience on your site to make it much easier to create Drupal websites. Lauri will talk a lot about that later. And we have Recipes, which connects all of these things together with the projects with configuration. So we can have use case specific solutions for things, and we can have best practices packaged together in Recipes. So these are the main components that will form the capability to create Drupal Starshot, and then the real magic will happen in the Recipes that relies on a lot of other modules in Contrib and a lot of other components. So let's talk about these pieces one by one and what do they mean. So automatic updates, I think a better name for what we use automatic updates for is Drupal Package UI, because it provides the package manager component, which is an API on top of Composer. And that's used by automatic updates, it's used by Project Browser, and it's used by, it could be used by a bunch of other things. So this provides us a way to code against the Composer API and to build UIs on top of the Composer APIs. And automatic updates is one of these UIs, and then Project Browser is one of these UIs, and the Starshot installer will be one of these UIs that may use Project Browser internally. So this allows us to install stuff on the UI with Composer as if you would have done it on the command line. So we use the same tool set that you would use on the command line, but you can do that on the UI. So this connects the dots between the browser being friendly to the user and still using the best practices of how you build a Drupal site. And this allows you to still use the command line to interact with the same Starshot site that you built on the browser. So I think it's a key component. So if you think that you do Composer update, you don't need automatic updates, this allows you to do a lot more things, and this enables the vision to do it in the browser and make it easy. So this creates a staging copy of the site where all the Composer operations are updated, and it verifies that it can do that staging copy. It verifies that it ran fine, and if the update ran fine, then it brings it back to your live Composer environment. It runs the database updates, and then you're fine with an update. And it also does the same with installing projects from the Project Browser. When you hit the install button in the Project Browser, it does the same with Composer on your site. So it can work with all of your existing workflows and processes. All right, next component is Project Browser. So I think we kind of started these components in the community, the initiatives, in this time order. So we built automatic updates to make maintaining your site easier. And then we were like, okay, but how you get new modules? And Project Browser is how you get new modules. So it shows you a list of projects, and it allows you to filter and use all kinds of criteria to find the best things that you need for your site, and install them on the UI with Package Manager. So I think that's great. There's currently a version of it in Contrib that uses a local copy of the project database, and the Drupal Association is rolling out the live API this week, so that it can run live against the live Drupal.org database. And finally, so it's that once you find modules, it's great, but you install the web form module or you install the 5-star module, now what? Like, how do you make a useful voting widget out of 5-star module? You need to find the field UI and enable the field and do a display mode and all kinds of other things. So that's where recipes come in, because recipes can configure all of those projects for you. So it tells you, like, these are the projects that I need. These are the configurations that need to be imported. These are the configuration actions that I want to do. Like, these are the modifications to config I want, or these are the configurations that I expect to be on the system for this recipe to apply. So there's all of those things, and they provide you with the capability to get configured version of the extensions, not just the extensions themselves. So I think that's a crucial next step on top of Project Browser. And they also have a bunch of benefits on top of install profiles. So recipes, they don't lock you into the recipe that you applied. They don't stay around on the site. It's just automated site building steps that happen in the background. So it's just like if you would have clicked through the same thing that's built in the recipe. the install profiles lock you in until Drupal 10.3 that now allows you to uninstall install profiles. Yes. There's many people that went through that pain, I think, to try to get out of one install profile into another one. It's impossible. Now it's possible to uninstall an install profile, and then you don't want to go back to another one anymore. We've been trying to solve inheritance of install profiles for a long time, to like have an install profile and another one inherit from it so that we can build on top of each other's work. That's been impossible to solve for install profiles. Recipes can use other recipes. It's fine. They depend on other recipes. Those recipes are applied. This recipe is applied. It's fine. And they're also composable. For install profiles, you can only install one install profile, and you can use that one install profile. And for recipes, you can apply as many recipes as you want. It doesn't matter. You can apply them later. You can apply them at the start of the site. So they are much more flexible than install profiles. The one thing they don't provide is an upgrade path. So they are not a product. They are not a product like an install profile. They are automated site building steps. So they are, if as you would like click through the thing that's in the recipe, your site building steps that you do manually on a website, they don't have an upgrade path either. But the components of the recipe have an upgrade path. So all the modules that the recipe installed will have an upgrade path like it has now. So it will be upgradable the same way that you have now. I think recipes will actually lead to better upgrades for websites, even though they don't themselves have an upgrade path, because recipes will encourage you to use the best practice modules. So if you want to have a yellow slider, then you will not search for yellow slider in the project browser and install the yellow slider module from Contrib. You will find a recipe, and that will use views, and that will use entities, and that will use SDC, and all of the best practices that you should use. And all of them have upgrade paths, and your website will be much happier and much easier to maintain in the future. So even though they directly don't have an upgrade path, I think they will indirectly lead to much better upgrades. And so the experience of all of these coming together in Starshot may look like this. So in the ideal final state, when you start installing Starshot, you will get a selection of different flavors. So Starshot is basically aiming to build one of these flavors for now. And then there could be like a decoupled content store that you can install, and it will be a great decoupled backend, or it could be a store for selling merchandise, whatever. So there could be multiple flavors of this. Some of these will possibly be hard-coded in the Starshot code base. Some of these will come from remotely, from the more templates menu. So this is a screen that Project Browser will serve you. And these are site-level recipes that install a bunch of things. But they are recipes. They are not install profiles or distros. So there are a lot of things that come together from a lot of recipes, basically. And then it would be possible to add more finer-grained recipes on top. So let's say you want to publish news and have landing pages, or publish recipes, or create events, all kinds of things. So that would be the next step after that, to add more stuff on your site. And then later on, when you want to extend it even further, then you would have this dashboard potentially on your site, and you could add even more of these recipes on top of what you've already had. So basically, we guide you composing your site based on the best practices from recipes with the Project Browser UI, using Package Manager on the back end. And it's all using the best practices of both the modules and the composer processes that the Drupal community figured out throughout the years. And it would still expose a bunch of information for you on the UI if you're really interested in like what modules is this event thing uses, or what permissions it exposes or grants to people. Those kind of things that we want to expose to the user so that they understand better what they're doing here. So that's the plan for the bigger framework of Starshot. The reason I'm really excited for this is because this provides us a big delivery mechanism for delivering best practices and a much better version of Drupal to users. But we're also working on a very critical component for this that will help it even easier to use.
So basically what Gábor just showed you was how you install Drupal, how you get some modules on your site. The next challenge that the user will face is, how do I import my brand into Drupal? How do I actually make the site look like my brand? Drupal comes with some default themes like Olivero, but most organizations don't actually want to use that brand for promoting their brand because it doesn't necessarily match very well with that. At the moment, if you wanted to do that with Drupal, you have to learn quite a few different concepts. You have to learn about how Drupal themes work. You have to learn about how the block layout works. You have to learn how views works. And that's a lot of things for users to learn. And the challenge today is that in order to actually import your brand into a Drupal theme, you kind of have to, it's not enough that you know HTML and CSS and sort of how to develop front end. You have to know specific ways to integrate that HTML into Drupal. You have to know how to massage the fields and all of that into the actual HTML that you wanted to get on the page. And that's where the whole Experience Builder initiative then comes in. So the Experience Builder will enable site builders without Drupal experience to easily theme and build their entire website using their browser. It will enable content creators to compose content on any part of the page without requiring developers to help them. So we have different target users for this. We have potentially front-end developers or site builders who need to do the brand work on the site. And then we have content creators who want to be creating content that actually matches the brand that the site builder imported to the site. We are at the moment in the stage of creating wireframes and designs and user journeys for how this experience will look like. I just took a screenshot of one of the wireframes that is being worked on at the moment for how it could look like to add a component. It looks a little bit awkward because there's these several layers of whiteboards in here, unfortunately. So the difference that we have with the Experience Builder in general to how we work is that we are trying to approach it from a very user experience and sort of user journey perspective, and then we are looking into what different things do we have to change in Drupal in order to facilitate that. It doesn't mean that all of the underlying concepts that exist in Drupal are going to change. We want to be leveraging those things within the Experience Builder. But there's going to be some level of decoupling of the design from the actual data model that you have. And the benefit of that is that if you have a component for something, let's say a card component, you can use that card component then to create listings using views. You can use that to build pages within Layout Builder, or you can use it to place a card component on the front page using the block layout. And you could do that all within a unified user experience so that it's very easy. Once you learn it to do it one way, you know how to do it in all of those different ways of doing. Obviously, that is quite a long way away. We're starting with the page building experience, or we're starting with the content creator facing interface, and then we are going to be expanding to other capabilities after that. So what Experience Builder is, you can see that the first stage of Experience Builder will be best parts of Layout Builder, so visual page building using components from a design system. It's going to be best of paragraphs, so it's going to allow you to construct pages by combining different components. You can define what kind of structures your content creators can do, so that if you have a card component, you can use a button component within that card component, and then you can use that card component to build other components from it as well. It's going to have with in-browser theming, meaning that you can build your Drupal theme or import your brand into Drupal without using IDE or command line. And it's going to be leveraging single directory components heavily. So if you are already using single directory components to build your theme, it will be easy to migrate that or make that compatible with Experience Builder. Why I say it's easy is that Experience Builder might need some additional metadata from your single directory components in order to actually generate all of the forms for your components to sort of create that smooth content creator experience. But it should be relatively straightforward to get your single directory components in there. So 2 months ago, getting into sort of how are we going to get all of this done. few months ago, we had a small group to sort of figure out how can we actually make all of this happen. We need to make a lot of decisions, and there's a lot of work that needs to happen in the next 6 months. How can we set up a team that can be successful at making this happen? We established some guiding principles, sort of what all of the decision needs to be based on in terms of when we are setting up the team. We need to have a fast and efficient decision-making within the team because there's a lot of decisions that need to happen in a short amount of time. So we want the decision-making to be fast and efficient. We want all of the decisions that we are making to prioritize the goals and target persona when making decisions. So we have established some goals where we want to improve the end user experience for site builders, we want to improve developer experience, we want to increase Drupal's adoption, and we want to increase our innovation. So all of our decisions within Drupal Starshot need to be focused around driving those objectives. And sometimes when you make decisions fast and efficiently, it means that you can't build a community-wide consensus on everything because you need to be moving fast and efficiently, but we don't want to compromise on making the decisions openly and transparently in the sense that we would be losing some of that feedback that you can get from the community. But it does mean sometimes that we can't wait for the conversation to go on in order to move forward. So what we did was we set up a small but mighty leadership team for Drupal Starshot, where Dries is the current product lead. He's looking for another product lead for this eventually, but he is going to be doing the work initially for us, and he has made himself available. He has made some changes to his role at Acquia so that he has more time to work on Drupal Starshot. Then we have Tim Plunkett as a tech lead. We have Christina as a UX lead. We have Pamela as a product owner, and Gábor as the community coordinator.
Yes. But we said that we wanted to have our decisions informed by our target persona. So what about getting our decisions checked by our target personas, and who would use this? So we decided to set up a Starshot Council that has 3 site builder members that review the things that we present, we decide. We have 2 Drupal certified partners because we want to involve the certified partners of the Drupal Association to contribute to Starshot more. It has it could have 2 Drupal core committers, which we are still filling in. It has 3 Drupal Association board members from these categories. So I don't know if you know, the Drupal Association has these working groups. So the innovation and the marketing and the fundraising group. And we want to have all of those represented in the Starshot discussions because these are the important things for Starshot's success. And finally, we have 2 Drupal Association staff members because there's a lot of interaction that we need with the DA on how Starshot will appear on the site, how Starshot will work with Drupal.org, and all of those things. So we have this Starshot Council. We had our first meeting last week. We'll meet monthly, and we'll discuss all the decisions that are being made, and then we'll have meeting minutes that are posted later.
There's one more thing which we don't have in the slides, is that we have a plan to empower a broader group of committers within the Starshot project. So we have the leadership team that is sort of helping to facilitate the process, and then we would have a broader group of committers who can do the actual day-to-day committing and day-to-day decision-making on sort of the merge request and issue level.
Yeah, but then we need some kind of direction on where people can contribute. So we started working on these tracks that are directions of things that we would like to see in Starshot. So this includes working on the installer and getting together the project browser and the package manager backends to show that UI in the installer. This includes starting working on some of those component recipes that we've been talking about, and we've been getting some feedback here. And we would like to try to find some Drupal certified partners from the Drupal Association to fund some of the work on this, either by sending their developers and UX people and project managers to work on them, or by funding the Drupal Association to fund people to work on these. So the Drupal Association has a program for this. They've been in close contact with the Drupal certified partners, but that shouldn't stop you from going into these issues and discussing and providing feedback. And we'll have a bunch of opportunity to be involved as individuals as well. I think Suzanne said that Drupal Starshot is great because it's great for the ambitious site builder, but I think it has a lot of stuff for you as well. So I'm excited for, I think, too many reasons for Drupal Starshot. So the more people I talk to, the more things I realize why it's great. So I think it finally sets up a clear persona for Drupal Starshot in the ambitious site builder. And it also sets up a clearer persona for Drupal core because it doesn't need to chase the same persona anymore. It can have its own targets and can focus on better things for building things with Drupal core instead of trying to get everything into Drupal core now. I think it's great because it will standardize a lot of the contrib ecosystem. So instead of having the yellow slider module in contrib that nobody updates anymore and you get stuck with it and it causes problems on your site security and updatability, we'll have these recipes that focus on the best practice contrib projects. So the best practice contrib projects will get more attention. There will be less one-off modules in contrib, so it will be easier to find the right ones. The recipes will allow us to unify a lot of the things that you built in your agencies, that you probably have your own Starshot, and you are like, why do we build this? I have my own thing at my company that we built for our customers. But we would have a best practice that we offer for the community that would allow you to build on top of that and put your unique differentiator on top at your company, and we would have a more unified platform. It will allow you, when you take over a customer from another company, will allow you to know the system better because it will use more of the same components configured the same way. It will allow themers to make better themes for Drupal because they will use the same content type names and the same display mode names. What else I have here? We could have better demos for all because we can build in demo content to these site recipes and will allow us to have more use case specific demos that you don't need to build. Could allow more funding on these projects because we are focusing the certified partners and companies to work on those common projects instead of making up new ones.
We also make it more lucrative to fund those things because we provide more visibility and more access to those modules. Today, a lot of the funding that we receive is for Drupal core because that's the thing that sort of is guaranteed to have broad adoption. But now we have Drupal Starshot as something that we are going to be promoting as the sort of primary product that we have, which means that a lot of users are going to come there, meaning that it's, again, if you contribute to Drupal Starshot, it's guaranteed to benefit a lot of users.
Yeah, it will be easier to contribute to because it consists of a lot of country projects that are easier to contribute to than core. You don't need to go through the whole core process for contributing to the Starshot modules. It will result in a more complete product because currently there's nobody in Drupal core that looks at the experience of how a Drupal admin experience looks like if you have 100 country modules. Like how like a permission page will work in that case, or how the field UI will work if you have like 100 field types. So nobody is looking at that even though you have that experience on your live sites. And now we'll have this Starshot that gets much closer to the real Drupal sites, and we'll have people looking at like, okay, now this UX is broken because we have these 20 modules that we've added. How do we solve this? So there will be more attention on solving those problems that you experience on real Drupal sites. And maybe finally, we hope that this will guide the discussion on having easier hosting for Drupal. So one of the things, because we have this complicated tool chain that we lost, is to host Drupal easily on cheaper hosting. And if we succeed with all of these tools to make it easy and make it possible in the browser, and even though using best practices on the backend with Composer and strong security, then we can get back to easier and cheaper hosting providers as well. And that would be a win for getting a wider user base.
So making Drupal easier to use for a broader group of users means that it's more lucrative also for hosting providers to add special support for Drupal. We used to have that 10 years ago when Drupal was used with a broad group of site builders, and we kind of lost that when the focus shifted more towards enterprise, because enterprise doesn't need cheap hosting. They need all of the bells and visuals in the enterprise hosting.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's a lot, I think, to be excited about for you. And so basically our positioning of Starshot is that core only, nobody's doing that. Core is great, it's stable, it's super secure, there's low risk. But many people use basically core and 100 modules or 30, 40, whatever many modules. That was probably more risky because there's all the upgrade risk and security risks with potentially abandoned modules and one-off modules. And we're going to improve a lot on that with Drupal Starshot by offering this starting point that uses best practices, that builds on what the Drupal community figured out. So it will result in a more secure solution for real Drupal sites than it currently is, even though it's going to be more liberal than Drupal core is, and it will allow us to innovate faster and make changes faster. So I think it's an improvement in speed, and it's also an improvement in stability and security and a bunch of other things as compared to actual Drupal sites that are put together by teams, because we can use all of that experience in building Drupal Starshot that the community has. So how can you be involved? We have online sessions that we don't have this week because we are here in person. So if you go on drupal.org/starshot, we post our online session recordings there and the schedule of future online sessions as well. We have issues in Starshot itself and all of these dependent projects that are also linked from the page. And we have Slack channel for Starshot and all of the dependent projects as well that we'll link from there. This week, if you work on a Starshot issue, any of the things that we linked from the Starshot page or initiatives for Starshot Project Browser automatic updates, you have a chance to win one of 2 space shuttles, not actual space shuttles, but space shuttle kits that have recipes that you can build different variants out of. They're 3-in-1. And there's an unofficial recipe store that provides you even more options of building other things out of this kit. So if you work on issues tagged with Starshot and Dev Days Burgas 2024, we'll review those issues towards the end of the week, and we'll see who gets one of these 2 kits. So looking forward to working with you this week.
Any questions?
I've seen it raised on Slack, but I think it's an important question. So we have Starshot in the middle. When you have enterprise-grade projects, you have a lot of content modules, but then you have developers maintaining those and making sure they're secure and up to a certain standard. We're also introducing potential metric for that in the community. But how will we make sure that once we include something in Starshot that it will be continued to maintain? Because that's going to be a tricky one, I think. Developers do this most of the time because their company sponsored them or because they want to do it. How are we going to, let's say web form, there's I think one maintainer that really maintains this. If he decides to step out, how are we going to do that? Because that's a big contender for, is there a plan for that?
So when we add modules to Starshot, we would definitely have to give consideration to on whether they are on a stable path. If there's multiple maintainers, that obviously reduces the risk in terms of that happening. But the great thing about Starshot is that because of you have that potential for additional funding, is that it can help you resolve those situations. And it's not like Starshot is necessarily changing it significantly from where we are today, given that most sites are using web forms anyway. So it is already a problem that we have. So I don't necessarily see that there's any negative to it. There's only a potential positive in the sense that we are looking at the situation more centrally and trying to mitigate these situations as they happen.
Another question?
Thank you guys for the presentation. Very nice to have you here today. It was a very good presentation. I'm from Poland, and Polish community has similar targeted product called Drupal. You can find it on Drupal.org, probably you heard about it. It's nearly 6 years now when this product is live, and 250 pages are using it live right now, I guess. So yes, there are some people who are who have some experience around this. So my question is, because I've seen the road and the pitfalls, which problems these guys hit, and is Drupal the right tool for the job, right? Because Drupal is, in my personal experience and opinion, is a great enterprise solution, right? So is it the right tool for the job? Because Drupal might be impact hammer, and the job you are trying to do is simply for a screwdriver. So maybe we should branch off. Maybe Drupal in the form that it's right now, it's not the right tool for the job. So this is the question for you. Thank you.
So there's definitely room for other products in the market. I don't think Drupal is going to be necessarily relevant for a one person building a website for themselves for, I don't know, their cat hospital or something like that. But there's a lot of use cases in between that, and especially some of the challenges that other CMSs have is enabling teams of people to work within their CMS. And the team could be the minimum of 2 people. Like imagine Wix, for example. If you built a website for your mom and your mom goes make some changes on the website, like they're either overwhelmed by the experience or they mess up the layout because they just have the unlimited freedom to make changes within there. And that's sort of the target market that we're looking is like when you are more than one person building a site, that's when Drupal can be a really good solution because of you can provide an experience that a completely non-technical user can use without risking losing things like design and consistency of your content. So I do believe, and I do think that there's a sort of strong belief within the leadership of the Starshot and Drupal core team that Drupal is a really good tool for that sort of use case of having more than one person build a website.
Yeah, I think it comes back to this. Like, Drupal is great at solving hard problems, but it doesn't need to be hard to solve the hard problems. So that's what we are trying to come at here, is to raise that bar from the start. And making Drupal easier to use doesn't necessarily make it dumber. So like recipes are not making any of their underlying things dumber. They're just helping you get to a common use case faster. And you still have all of the power there that you can use. So we are not taking away any of the power. We are making it easier to get to somewhere faster.
How can we enable the people who are not rocket scientists to play with rockets?
Okay, last questions, please.
Thanks. First one is a quick one. Is this diagram real? Or you just assume that this is the graph?
This is based on user research, which was done in 2019.
Okay, cool.
And the post has actual data of the research.
Yeah.
All right. The second one is more serious. So are the recipes going to be, so are people going to be allowed to make their own recipes and put them on Drupal.org? Because if one of the emphasis in your presentation was that not modules that are not supported, contrib modules that are not supported or have security issues are going to be put to the periphery, as probably they should be, and more emphasis is going to be put on good practice modules, contrib modules. Maybe if people are allowed to contribute their own recipes, the same is going to happen with recipes. People are going to create unsecure recipes, recipes that are not supported, but users are going to have access to this through the browser, and they're going to be able to download and use unsecure or unmaintained recipes.
So we are planning on different kinds of metrics that help users make the selection of recipes. So there could be maybe rating or download counters or things like that that help you see what the quality of a community recipe is. What we are also doing is we are going to have the concept of featured recipes, which you can trust to be verified by sort of Drupal experts, and it's going to be a much smaller list of recipes. So depending sort of what is your risk profile of the user, they can make a decision if they want to use only the featured recipes or if they want to use something outside of that.
Also, recipes don't have code themselves, so they depend on projects and they have configuration and they can make changes to configuration. They don't have code themselves, so there's much less possibility for them to be insecure. There's still potentially like insecurities through configuration. They can rely on modules that are not, yes, they can rely on those, yes. But that's not worse than what we have now. When you find the insecure module, now you'll find the insecure recipe. I don't think that makes it worse. The ways that we are trying to focus people, and now we'll have a way with Project Browser to have a more directed browsing experience where we can direct the users more on the better things. On Drupal.org, we haven't been successful with that. So that's what we are focusing on as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
think you can find the team around and ask
Yes.
more questions, so feel free to
We'll
do
be
it.
here all week.
Yeah, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.